Peace, everyone in WPFW land. Welcome to another episode of Darker Than Blue here on WPFW 89.3 FM in the Washington, D.C. area. I am Jackie Lukeman, and this is Darker Than Blue. We're a few minutes late. I apologize, having some technical difficulties here, but here we are. We are in the midst of Darker Than Blue, and we are in the midst of our spring pledge drive. And listen, Darker Than Blue only exists on this station, on WPFW, because you, the listeners, want this kind of content on the air, because you don't get the information that you get on WPFW. You don't get it from corporate media. You don't get it from the Washington Post, the New York Times. You don't get this information from the Financial Times, not from CNN, not from, what do they call themselves now? MSNB now, yesterday, later. You don't get the information, the community focused information, the local focused information, and the international focused information on any other corporate media, or on any corporate media site, and certainly not on any other radio station in the Washington, D.C. metro area. WPFW has a unique signature and signal. And that is why it is a miracle that WPFW has remained not only on the air, but has expanded since 1977. That's how long we've been on the air, y'all, WPFW. And WPFW has only been able to stay on the air because of listeners, because our fiercely loyal listener base, not our fans, our community, our family, our friends, our neighbors. You are who have kept WPFW on the air since 1977. But did you know, as we are in the midst of our 2026 Spring Pledge Drive here in WPFW, did you know that only about 6 to 9% of those listeners and viewers actually support WPFW? That is actually true. That most of the people who support this station are actually among the 6 to 9% of people, of all of the listeners who actually give. That means 90% of you, over 90% of the listeners of WPFW, do not actually support this station. You are enjoying the content here on WPFW off of the largesse and the commitment of just 6 to 9% of the listening audience. So the other 90 whatever percent of you out there who are listening to my voice, I am Jackie Lukman, and this is WPFW, and this show is Darker Than Blue. If you like the sound of my voice, if you like the content I provide, if you really enjoy the content on WPFW, then I encourage you. I ask you to lighten the load of that 6 to 9% of supporters. I see you over there on YouTube, Cool Street Kid. Thank you so much for that sticky on YouTube. It's you can do that. You can help lift the weight of the, what is it? We have a $177,000 goal, I think, every year. It costs around that much, $175,000, I think, to keep this station afloat. And that is accomplished by just 6 to 9% of the listening audience. And here's the thing. We're not sure how that 6 to 9%, and yes, it's increased from 5% to 6% to 7% to 8%. Now it's up to 9%. But still, the fact that that small percentage of listeners has helped us keep this station on the air for so long, it is a miracle. And it's a miracle that continues to happen because of your commitment. But it is a miracle that could be even bigger and even easier to achieve if everyone or more people than just the 6 to 9% contributed to supporting this station. So you have the opportunity to do that right now by calling 202-588-9739 or 1-800-222-9739. You can go to the website WPFW fm.org and go to the drop down menu, select darker than blue, and make your pledge. And you can pledge via Cash App, dollar sign WPFW FM, and you submit your pledge that way. So my goal for this hour, $700. We can certainly do it. And here is how I think we are going to accomplish this. You ready? You want to know how you can do this? This is very easy. I am looking for 7 new sustainers this hour. What's a sustainer? A sustainer is a person who contributes to WPFW. Every month, a set amount of money is deducted from whatever financial instrument you choose, whether it's your debit card, your credit card, your bank account, whatever you choose. And that comes out of your bank account or your whatever financial instrument every month to make up your pledge. So let's say you want to pledge $150 to WPFW during this hour. You could pay the whole $150 at once, and that would be fantastic. But it would be much easier for you to make a $150 pledge and pay for that pledge $12.50 one month at a time. That's what I'm looking for. 7 people during the hour here in WPFW to make a $150 pledge in a sustaining fashion, which means you pledge to pay that $150, $12.50 every month for the year. And then at the end of the year, you know what I'm going to ask? That you continue your sustainment. So 202-588-9739. 1-800-222-9739. My goal is $700 for this hour. We can meet that goal with 7 sustaining pledges for $12.50 an hour. WPFWFM.org or Cash App, dollar sign. I don't know why I'd call it Cash App, but dollar sign WPFWFM. We can make this $700 goal with 7 $150 or $12.50 a month sustainers. Call right now while I tell you about some of the places that I get the information that I share with you from. I hope you realize that when I come and talk to you all here on WPFW, whether you're listening on the radio, whether you are listening online, live at WPFWFM.org, or whether you are listening or watching on the the streams on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, it doesn't matter how you watch this show. What I hope you notice is that very rarely do I ever use corporate media sources unless those corporate media sources actually expose a little tiny bit of the truth that they never want the masses to know. This is why, with all media outlets, you must read the entire article. If it's 15 paragraphs long, then a little sliver of the truth, I promise you, is going to be buried in paragraph 13 and a half. So if you really want to get to a fact in a lot of U.S. media outlets, You have to read the entire article, but don't take what they provide in those outlets as the ultimate truth, because y'all, they're just not. And if we know we can't trust US media, the question is, and I think this is what we organizers, we sort of miss sometimes, not all of us, but some of us, I have been guilty of this, railing against corporate media and the lies that they tell us, which we should. We have to do that, right? We have to tell people that they're being lied to by every corporate media outlet in this country. But the other part of this that we don't do as well, or that I have been remiss in doing, is telling people where they can get trustworthy information. Now, obviously, everybody knows that you can get trustworthy information on Darker Than Blue here on WPFW. The station, the platform, that is one of the few places, that is one of the few radio 1500-watt broadcast tower radio stations that would allow the political perspectives that you hear from Darker Than Blue and other shows on this station that you're not going to hear on any other radio station, that are all corporate owned, right? So where else do I get the information that I share with you? Well, for those of you who are listening on WPFW 89.3 and on the website, I'm going to spell out the website to these outlets for you. But for those of you who are watching on Instagram or on YouTube over on Black Liberation Media, I am going to show you the outlets. And for those of you who are listening, then you can go back and watch the video later so you can see too. And of course, I will put all of the links for your reference in the description of the video after the show is done. So, other than this outlet, WPFW, where does Jackie Luqman get so much of her information? Well, I go to a lot of sources, and many of those sources are international sources, but not all of them are. Because, of course, one domestic source that I use all of the time is Black Alliance, a Black Agenda Report, and that is Black Agenda Report dot, where is my dot org. So this is a news commentary and analysis from the Black left, and this is an absolutely fantastic source of information. The Black Agenda Report covers not only about domestic issues, but also international issues from a Black anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist perspective. So again, the website is Black Agenda Report. And if we're just looking at this week's articles, let's see, we've got Black Agenda Radio for May 8th, which you also hear on WPFW, the Voting Rights Act and the Need for Movement Politics, a letter written by Pedro Perez Sadui to Carlos in Cuba. Let's see. Well, let me go back. In its lynching of the Voting Rights Act, did SCOTUS just do us a favor and help us get rid of the Black petit bourgeois class? These are the kinds of articles, along with information on the attacks in on Mali that happened last week, more information on the situation in Iran, information about Yemen, about Palestine, about more information about the Horn of Africa, the alliance of the Sahel states, all over the world, where people are struggling against imperialism and neocolonialism and fascist violence. Black Agenda Report will cover it and make the connections for why these things that happen all over the world actually do matter to us Africans here. So, Black Agenda Report is one of my sources. It is probably my primary go to source, but it's not the only domestic go to source because I also really enjoy MR Online. And you can get to this site by going to mronline.org. MR Online is the monthly review, and it is a monthly, an online version of the monthly review press. It is a left publication, and the kinds of things they have in their publication this week are Jorge Lobo Miglioli, Marx Kalecki, and the Desenvolvimentistas Dream in Brazil, Brazilian anti-imperialist history. Over 1 billion people in the world live with diabetes. This is the 19th newsletter that they have here from the Tricontinental Institute for Social Research, which is another source that I really love to use. Also, in this week's MR Online, Green Politics and Public Money, they also have an article about U.S. hegemony and the West Asian War, a political economic intervention. What cannot be unlearned? The defense of the Bolivarian Revolution they have in this week also, and the rest. Let's see, what did I miss? Um, yeah, that's MR Online for this week. They have always have a really good um, selection of articles and analyses on different geopolitical issues from a left perspective. I really love MR Online, a monthly review online. It is the online version of Monthly Review Press, and you can get it at mronline.org. All right. So that is that publication that I love. Another US publication that I really, really, it is indispensable. Just like for me, Black Agenda Report is indispensable. I know that most people have never heard of this publication that I am about to tell you about, and that is Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting. Folks, if you don't listen to anything else I say today, I want you to remember just 3 publications. Black Agenda Report is one of them. Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting is another. Because FAIR actually critiques the media. They challenge the bias that we get, the propaganda, the lies in corporate media, and they've been around since 1986. They have Counterspin Radio, which is a part of their media ecosystem. They have studies. All of their issues and topics are right at your fingertips. This week in Fair Online, they have Angelo Carusone on media matters versus the FTC, and Rachel K. Jones on mifepristone. You know how the Supreme Court just what did they do? They allowed mifepristone, which is the pregnancy emergency pregnancy termination pill, from to allow it to continue to be sent over the mail until a judicial decision is made about the so-called legality of it. Yeah, okay, but they analyze the reporting on this lawsuit, and they talk about the facts about this decision on mifepristone from the Supreme Court. They talk about 5 prices for the same product. Is price manipulation? Counterspin interview with Derek Kravitz on dynamic pricing. Who's covering that aspect of why our groceries are so expensive? Because stores are now employing this, the little LED or the digital price stickers that, yeah. So they did that so that they could change the price just like that. While you're standing there watching, they could just change the price for any reason, like they do at the gas station for their gas pumps. Yeah, we don't want that. But people aren't really talking a lot about it, certainly not in the corporate media. Fairness and accuracy in reporting are talking about this issue. And they make a point in this interview that Janine Jackson has done. And she says no one really knows that this is going on, and no one can really see behind the curtain how this algorithmic pricing works in practice. They also talk about the regressive ideologies behind the baby bus panic and the heated rhetoric that doesn't make CNN's Dana Bash think twice. So that's fairness and accuracy in reporting. You can get to that website at fair, F like Frank, AIR .org. FAIR .org. And I have someone to thank. Thank you so much, friend in Wildemar, California. I appreciate you so much. Folks, 6:40 to go. I am looking for 7 sustainers at $12.50 a month. $12.50 a month. $12.50 a month. 7 sustainers to knock out the rest of this $640 for this show for the next, 30 minutes? Yeah, $640. We can do it with 7 sustainers at $12.50 a month. You have been sustaining WPFW online, on the radio, on the broadcast waves, on an FM dial, no less, since 1977, because you have been served well by the information and the commitment and the community connection and building that we do here at WPFW. And certainly you have enjoyed the jazz as well as the justice. So join in this beautiful, beautiful struggle and project with us. Don't let the 6 to 9% carry all the load. You chip in a little bit too. 7 of you, just 7. $1,250. I'm sorry, $12.50 a month. But you know what? If one of you out there has $1,250 to give me, please go ahead and give it to me. 202-588-9739 or 1-800-222-9739. And just to be clear, when you donate to WPFW, you're not donating, you're not pledging to me, you're not pledging to any of the hosts who are participating in this pledge drive. Every dime of your money, every dime of that $12.50 a month goes to the operation of this station. I come here every Friday and I do this for free. I do it because I love it. I do it because it's important. I do it because I kind of got tired of saying, man, I wish people would tell the truth about what that meant. And I decided, maybe I shouldn't wait for somebody else to tell the truth about this thing or that thing. Maybe I should be the one to do it because that's what I did for a living, right? And just because I'm not getting a paycheck for from a big radio station, right? Because I was a broadcaster on another radio station, on Sputnik Radio, and this is what I did. And then I just kind of thought, well, why is it not important for me to continue to do this just because I'm not gonna get a paycheck? It's still my job. It's still who I am. It is still what I believe. That has never changed. So instead of still waiting for somebody else to come and tell the truth about all the stuff that I know is a lie, I decided, I'm going to do my part. I'm going to do my part as a volunteer and do what I love to do what I'm good at doing, and do what I can't sit around and wait for somebody else to do. So please, 7 people, just 7 of you, for the next 27 minutes, $640. 7 of you pledging $12.50 a month can knock that out. 202 588-9739 or 1-800-222-9739, WPFWFM.org online, or on your cell phone via Cash App, $ WPFWFM, and make your pledge. Thank you very much. Thank you so much on YouTube. Will Red 73, appreciate you. Thank you so very much. What else? What other outlets do I really enjoy for domestic news in the US? I like Counterpunch a lot. I'm going to share this with you. Counterpunch.org, COUNT like Tom, ER, P like Paul, UNCH.org. I really, I've read them a very long time. They can get a little toward the liberalish kind of narrative when it comes to some international issues of imperialism. They'll do the whole, Russia is our authoritarian thing sometimes, but they do provide a really wide range of pretty reputable authors on just an enormous range of subjects. Just this week, this edition, there are articles from Stephen Eisenman, Joshua Frank, Jeffrey St. Clair, Matthew Stevenson, Ramsey Baroud, Ishmael Reed, Paul Street, John O'Kane, Peter Hart, Vijay Prashad, and Nitish Narayanan, all kinds of stuff. They've got an article on the resistance fights on as the cowardly crusaders flounder on the aggressive attacks on Iran and the Middle East region. Jeffrey St. Clair writes, roaming charges, pity the poor billionaire, all kinds of other great stuff. Their chaos is our peace, fighting Zionist repression in Texas and beyond. From Yarden Azole Katz, the NYPD reminds us that police don't protect people, only power, by Sophie Shepard. Wow, there's just so much in Counterpunch. It's always a lot of great information, and I hope you take advantage of it because it's a really great source. You're learning a lot of stuff, and oh my gosh, I know I was a little late, but man, time goes fast. It is time for a WPFW station break. So, engineer extraordinaire, what do we have on tap for the people today? There we go. Has been a stalwart home for emancipatory music and movements since 1977. Beginning Sunday, May 3rd through Saturday, May 16th, we invite you to invest in the future of WPFW through our Spring Drive. Our foundation is jazz because it's the most democratic music ever created. It's a living language, improvisational, collaborative, and perpetually in motion, just like our struggle for liberation. Your contributions allow WPFW to amplify our voices, our music, and our movements as essential public infrastructure that will never be bought or paused, and ensure that the future of Jazz and Justice Radio remains bright. Be in solidarity with us by donating May 3rd through 16th or anytime at WPFWFM.org. That's WPFWFM.org. Thank you. All right, absolutely. Still have time, 6:40 to go. 202-588-9739, 1-800-222-9739. Pledge online, WPFWFM.org, or via Cash App at $WPFWFM. I am still looking for 7 sustainers at $12.50 a month. 7 sustainers to carry the load with the 6 to 9% that has kept us on the air since 1977. We have an overall $250,000 goal. I on this show have a $640 goal to meet in the next 22 minutes. 202-588-9739, 1-800-222-9739. I'm only looking for 7 people at $12.50 a month or anything you can provide. Call now for Darker Than Blue. So, yes, let's see. Now that's the domestic stuff, and that's not all of the domestic news. I listened or I watch or listen to. I also read things like Covert Action magazine. Definitely Hood Communist. I need you to absolutely tap into Hood Communist. HOODCOMMUNIST.org. Now, I know the name has probably scared some of you very much, and you started to write the word communist, and you probably crossed it out. Oh no, I can't have it. Listen, these folks who run Hood Communist are some of the brightest, most dynamic, and enthusiastic liberation fighters who are Africans and who are very sharp at examining the material conditions as they exist historically and analyzing what it all means for us in the way that only young people who are trying to talk to young people can do. I cannot recommend Hood Communist more highly than I have. If you have a Gen Z, Gen X folks who don't like the traditional news analysis, but want a younger sounding voice, yeah, definitely Hood Communist as for you is for you. And the analysis is absolutely sharp and centered on African primarily, but all working class, poor, and oppressed, marginalized, and racialized people. So hoodcommunist.org. And I want to thank Friend from Chicago, Illinois. Thank you so much. Friend says, love y'all. Keep it up. Thank you so much. I love you too, friend. I appreciate you. $490 to go. $490. 6 sustainers now. $12.50 a month. 6. Come on, we can do it. $490 to go. 202-588-9739 or 1-800-222-9739. If you're out and about with your phone in your hand, Cash App WPFWFM or go to the website WPFWFM.org, then download the app. Then you can pledge right through the app. There you go. $490 to go. We can get it done. So what about international news? Now listen, I do not want to hear of any of you listening to or reading or watching anything that is said on corporate media about anything this government does in any other country that they claim is an enemy. I don't want to hear about y'all continuing to believe the things these people lie and tell you on these media outlets about foreign policy, because even if US media sometimes tells a little bit of the truth about what happens here, and I do mean a little bit of the truth, they always lie. Always, everything is a lie in regard to foreign policy, especially when it's about countries that this government wants to attack and destroy. So where do I get my information about foreign policy from? One article that I found a couple of years ago, one outlet that I found a few years ago, this is The Cradle, is thecradle.co. The Cradle is THECRADLE.co. The Cradle is a Middle East outlet. It is an investigative outlet. They do feature international journalists, but they have articles on the Turkish naval strategist. warns U.S. blockade risks global economic collapse. They have an article by Pepe Escobar. Oh, that article, the Turkish article, was by Seda Karan. Pepe Escobar writes, War on Iran reshapes the war of connectivity corridors. Mohammed Hassan Swaydan writes, U.S. bases in the Persian Gulf, security shield or escalation trigger. And Sharmini Narwani writes, Gaza destroys Western divide and rule narratives. There's a lot of they have a lot of history on this site that I like to read and learn more about these countries and the histories of these countries with the other countries in the Gulf and so-called, I'm not calling it the Middle East anymore, the the Near East region. So I really like to listen to or read that history, and their investigations are very, very good. So I definitely recommend the cradle.co. But I also really like, where did it go? And I just found this. Well, not found. I didn't find anything. I just learned about it last year, and that is the outlet Al Mayadeen. Al Mayadeen is obviously Iranian, and they cover Africa, Asia, Asia Pacific, Europe, Latin America, Palestine, US, and Canada. What do they have on their front page today? Beijing rejects leveraging US China summit to pressure Iran. Interesting. Axios report nothing more than a U.S. wish list, Raze says, and this is Ibrahim Raze dismisses U.S. reports of an agreement between Washington and Tehran, stressing that the U.S. will not achieve through war what it failed to achieve during the talks. Because, President Trump and the corporate media are now saying, oh, this Project Freedom is successful in Iran. We've pushed them to be hungry for a peace deal. They want a peace deal now, and we've won. And Al Mayadeen says, no, they didn't, because the people in Iran are saying, no, they didn't. They're not going to get what they're asking for. So what agreement? We don't have an agreement with them because their wish list is ridiculous. So this is why you have to find reputable alternative sources for domestic and international news. Because once you read those articles from CNN and MSNBC and all other places, and they tell you, oh, the Trump administration says this, but they don't tell you what the Iranians are saying. They don't tell you what the Pakistanis are saying. They don't tell you what the Yemenis are saying. They don't tell you what the Palestinians are saying. They don't tell you anything about the Palestinians in Gaza at all, or the West Bank, or the ethnic cleansing going on in in Lebanon right now. Corporate media isn't telling you all of that. But if you go to sites like Al Mayadeen, you'll read all about that and more about what the US is doing in the region with their allies, Israel, and even the UAE. But they're not the only site, because I also really enjoy Palestinian Chronicle, and I've been reading this for a long time. Palestine Chronicle, and it's Palestine Chronicle, exactly how it sounds. P like Paul, ALES like Sam, T like Tom, INECHRONICLE.com. They've been around a very long time. Palestine Chronicle is an EU-based nonprofit entity dedicated to public education and engagement. And their homepage this week, live blog, Southern Lebanon under fire as Hezbollah expands operations into day 70. Gaza, no words, see exhibit, Memory and Resistance at the Venice Biennale. Wow, the U.S. had the Met Gala in Venice. They screened an exhibit for Gaza. Huh. And how come you didn't hear about that in U.S. corporate? Yeah, okay. Iranian officials warn UAE amid unconfirmed reports of explosions and smoke inside Fatah's eighth conference. Gaza marginalized amid legitimacy crisis. Why Israel assassinated Azam al Hayya and what U.S. mediators knew. You're not going to get that information on Fox News. Come on. I don't care how much Tucker Carlson is claiming to be mad at Israel now. You're not going to hear this from him. Come on now. Gaza flotilla activists report sexual violence after Israeli interception. Has US media reported on the interception of the flotilla boats and the kidnapping of the passengers on the vessels in international water 700 miles away from the coast of Gaza? Has corporate media talked about that? Oh, you didn't know about that? Check out Palestine Chronicle. Learn all about it. There is also Mideast Eye, Middle East. I always somehow, you know how we do. We make everything a nickname. So I've been calling this site Mideast Eye for far too long, but it is Middle East Eye. Sometimes they've got some you're a little liberalish, little kind of soft, but it's okay. I think it's good to read some of this information just to get the perspective from outside of the United States. So their main story this week is focused on international law, and it's an exclusive. The ICC prosecutor Karim Khan details dangerous attempt by states to remove him. Did you know about this? I didn't know about this. The chief prosecutor, he is the chief prosecutor of the ICC, says he faces a Khan-made process intended to oust him and warns the world faces a choice between brute power and rule of law. They also talk about Iran still reviewing U.S. proposal while Israel continues strikes in Lebanon. Israeli army chief recommends commander who destroyed Gaza University for senior role. India mends ties with Turkey after a year of tension over Pakistan. And the UAE's ruling Al Nahyan family receives tens of millions in EU farming subsidies. Huh, wonder why that is. There is also, but that's all, that's the Middle East Eye. And I'm sorry, you can get to the Middle East Eye at, guess where? MiddleEastEye.net. MiddleEastEye.net. And there is also the electronic intifada. One of my, the favorite is not a word I like to use for this kind of journalism because it is very, very heavy. And it's always been very, very serious. But I think electronic intifada might have been one of the first sources for Palestine news that I ever knew about. So I've been reading the electronic intifada for a very long time. And they talk about the activist who smashed up the Elbit plant in Germany. They are facing a show trial now. They talk about Gaza's painful journeys. Vehicles, fuel, and small change are in short supply. So Gazans have to walk everywhere because the Zionist army kills the animals. They kill the horses and the donkeys so that the people have nothing, right? Medicine shortages amid siege leave people in peril. Hundreds of testimonies reveal sexual torture of Palestinians in Israeli prisons. Montreal provides a model for student activism, and so many different articles and reviews from different aspects of the conflict, the aggression, the imperialism in that region. I also have some really great sources for news from and about the continent. And one of those sources is, where are you? Where did it go? And see, I always have such a good time, and I'm talking to you all, and I look up and it's like, oh my God, time is gone. But time is never long enough when we are having a really good time. Oh, before I run out of time, I want to thank Mozon from Rocky Mountain, North Carolina. What's up, fam? Thank you so much. Now we have $340 to go, and now I'm looking for five five sustainers at $12.50 a month. That five, you know you're out there. Five sustainers at $12.50 a month. We can knock this 340 out with the last 6 minutes. Let's go. I also love Pan African Newswire. This is curated in much of the articles, if not all of them, written by Abayome Ezekiwe, who you hear usually on Voices with Vision. You'll hear him a lot there. I think you just heard him a few weeks ago on Black Agenda Radio with Margaret Kimberly, and you will probably hear him on Darker Than Blue at some point. But Pan African Newswire is critical for me to know what is going on the continent. There are links to other news sites. This is why it's so great. Abayomi provides his articles and his analysis, but he also provides a really great roundup of news from around the continent from different news sources. So he has information from All Africa News, focusing on Nigeria and South Africa, from the APO group, the Africa Newsroom, focusing on Uganda, Kenya, the French climate envoy and his interference, and other sources from World News, African labor, and U.S. political economy. He's got a book about that, African Labor and U.S. Political Economy by Abayomi Ezekiwe, and as well as some other books. Absolutely go to panafricannews.blogspot.com. That's PANAFRICANNEWS dot BLOGSPOT.com. And probably the last but not least, Pambu. I always mispronounce this. Pambazuka News. There it is. Pambazuka News. Pambazuka News is the authoritative Pan-African website and newsletter for social justice in Africa and the global South, providing cutting-edge commentary and in-depth analysis on the struggle for freedom and justice. It is produced by a community of 2,800 citizens and organizations, academics, policymakers, social activists, women's organizations, civil society organizations, writers, artists, poets, bloggers, and commentators, who together produce insightful, sharp, and thoughtful analyses. So there is so much information here. They've got reparatory justice and the pharmaceutical industry through pharmaceutical sovereignty, talking about seeking repair in Cameroon, the Franco-Cameroonian Joint Report on colonial violence. See, the reason we think that nobody cares about us in this country is because we don't know the history of other countries and their struggle against imperialist violence, which is exactly the same struggle as ours here. Woo! Time flows so fast when we are having fun. But as always, we are out of time again. But that does not mean that you don't have any more time to help keep Darker Than Blue and this station on the air, because you do still have time. You can still call 202-588-9739 or 1-800-222-9739. Go to the website, pledgewpfwfm.org. Go to Cash App, $WPFWFM, and pledge $12.50 a month. That's all it takes for you to help us share this load. Many hands make light work. We can make this $250,000 for this pledge light work. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. Please come back to this video, check out all of the links to the resources in the description. I'm going to add some more, and stop falling for the lies from this evil empire and their corporate scribes. A luta continua, the struggle continues. But if we keep seeking the truth, I promise you, victory is certain. Victoria asserta. Stay tuned for news views with Garland Nixon. Peace. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Not going to stay on too long today. I just wanted to see if I got another pledge, and I did. Woohoo! All right, I did pretty good for my pledge today, even though I didn't do nothing. I didn't feel like writing a script. I didn't feel like researching anything today. I didn't feel like, but I also didn't feel like, just coming in here and shooting the shit over nothing. Uh, because I feel like, while I recognize that is helpful and it's useful, and I do like sharing my personal stuff with you, some of my personal stuff, not everything. And you'd excuse me, I got a tooth issue going on here. Tooth broke last year, and it was fine, didn't hurt. I was like, okay, I'll get it checked out as long as it's not hurting. It's okay. Well, it decided, you know what, it's time to hurt. So yeah, I got the amoxicillin on deck, got the Tylenol on deck. Uh, so I just got Kamathi from the vet, and let me just say that Kamathi is a very good dog. He really loves people. He loves people. He just does not look, he's an old man. He is a crotchety ass old man who honestly does not like to be, he doesn't like to be overwhelmed, right? So when he when he feels overwhelmed, like three people can be standing around him, petting him, holding the leash, um that he's fine with that as long as he feels like everyone is playing with him. As soon as he feels like it's not playing anymore and it's something serious, then he wants everybody to leave him alone, and he wants to know where I am. And it's of course really bad if I'm not around. So I don't know why these people do this. It doesn't, I guess that they have this new policy in veterinary offices where they take your dog into the exam room away from you, and I don't know why they do that. Because with a dog with anxiety, the first thing that anxious dog is going to look for is its parent. It's human. And I knew when Kamathi woke up from that little bitty bullshit sedation they gave to him. I told him it wasn't going to do anything. I had him on trazodone. It ain't do shit. He was sleepier last night than he was this. So, he's fine. He's fine, by the way. I took him to the vet because he needed his annuals. Um, he has to have a rabies shot. But at he's what, 10? I'm not going to subject that dog to this shit much more. All I need to know is that he does not have heartworm disease anymore, and he doesn't have heartworms anymore, and fine, they ain't gonna never see me or that dog again. Because I can't take it. I can't take it. I'm stressed out. I hear my dog growling. Because, see, my dog gets pissed off and he doesn't whine, he growls. And at 98 pounds, everybody stops. So I'm hearing my dog growl at people in the room that I can't go into. I'm nervous. I'm nervous. I am convinced he can feel me being anxious. So I'm just like freaking out. And, they tell me, well, it's going to take a while. We're not going to be able to get to him for a couple of hours. So I leave him there, and I don't like leaving my dog at the vet, but I had to. So then I went to get him, and the sedation didn't work. And they're like, oh my God, he's trying to eat us. And I'm like, I told you. He had three muzzles on, y'all. Three. He had three muzzles on. I don't know how he got out of the muzzle. Our muzzle, the one I have for him, the one that goes all around his head and it looks like a Hannibal Lecter mask. That dog spent that time. They had him just kind of chilling out, hoping he would calm down. That dog spent that time with his paws, trying to slowly inching that shit off of his head. This is why that I am as anxious taking my pets to the vet as my pets have been anxious being at the vet. And Kimathi is probably the most anxious pet I've had going to the vet. I Brewski was not like this. Brewski did not like going to the vet, but he liked his vet and his vet's son. Um So, and he liked the receptionist. Now, Kimathi loves all of the vet techs. They're all young ladies, and I mean these are girls. If they're 20, if any of them are 25, I would be shocked. But they're vet techs. They are trained. They're, they're good at what they do. They are very affectionate with everybody's pets. They're really nice. They when they call you, they ask you, they tell you you can come pick up your baby. So they know that they know what our relationship. This isn't, like just a job to them. They are just young though. So my 58-year-old idea of politeness and courtesy it might not be theirs, right? And I need to stop being a crotchety ass old woman, being pissed off at the little attitude that the young girls have. I catch myself. I do. I really do catch myself like, why you sniffing your upper lip? Why you mad? If you're this mad, why don't you stay home? The crotchety ass old lady creeps in, very get off my lawn kind of. And I don't mean it. It just happens when you're frustrated, you're anxious. You got to pay all this damn money that you don't have. And you're worried about your baby. And Kimaki is my baby. All of my dogs are my babies. You know. But the possum family that lives in the tree out back, I think they're my babies too. So that's me. But yeah, it's just it is a very I'm learning, I guess, how to manage my own. And then I think it's probably just kind of innate how when you get a little older, your patience becomes. I think it becomes shorter every year. I don't know what the measure is of how much patience you lose with younger people and then humanity in general around, you're entering into your senior years, but it happens. It really happens. And I used to enjoy sitting in traffic. I did because I just kind of figured it just gives me more time to listen to my favorite songs, you know. But I don't like it anymore because I want to get to where I am going. And these folks are taking all this time cashing him out, and they're like, well, we're gonna try something else to get his X-ray, and the sedation wore off. Oh, I know. I know. Uh-huh. They isolated him in a room by himself because he still had the three muzzles on, but they're like, he's gonna eat you through three muzzles. So I went there, and I did put his muzzle back on, and I put two muzzles that they gave me on top of his muzzle. But they're still like, oh my God, he's gonna eat us. I'm like, if you let me go in the room, he'll be fine. He'll still be agitated, but he'll be okay. He won't be aggressive towards you. No, you can't do that, and blah blah blah. So that's like a policy thing that I think I'm not sure if it's this veterinary office, veterinary services, PetSmart, whatever it is, or it's everyone, but this separating the parent from the pet at the vet's office, that's a bad idea. It is a terrible, terrible idea. And it just gave me more anxiety today than I needed. And they pushed me for time because they took so doggone long. So I got here like 5 minutes. So Kimathi is laying on the floor downstairs because he's still high from the trazodone and the sedation, and I'm not even mad. So, and neither is he, honestly, because he's pretty happy at this point. I've done the show. So there I was, and we've got a CC meeting for BAP tomorrow. We got other stuff we got to work out. There's Howard graduation. There's a bunch of college campus organizing that we might be that we will be doing next year, that we're going to have to start organizing for now. Let's see, what we got, a bunch of conferences that we are planning. I am working with my church's board of social action to start a political education series that a bunch of organizations in DC, including BAP, are going to participate in with a bunch of other churches. Let's see, we're working on organizing a benefit, a fundraiser with IFCO for Cuba. And we're hoping that we're going to be doing it at Plymouth. I hope we're going to be able to do it at Plymouth. Oh, so yeah, that's all this. Oh, and then and then there's the tooth, for which I am going to go immediately and take another amoxicillin. I don't care that it's not 8 hours since I took the last one, because anytime I feel it in the mouth, uh, yeah, and then I'm gonna go and schedule an appointment for Monday or Tuesday to get this thing, um, either get a crown or to get it removed or something or like that. Ah, glasses. Got my new glasses. Yeah, old frames, new lenses, so I can actually see clearly. So all of that is going on, and that is just the organization, um surface level personal stuff, right? So I I didn't want to talk about shit today. Honestly, I'm just gonna be honest with y'all. And then this is the kind of stuff I don't mind sharing with people, because I like for people to understand that I don't know how to say this other than the way I've always said it. There is nothing special or or unique, not special, because I do think there is something special about me and the way I do what I do. But I don't think there's anything unique about what I do, because I feel like all I do is turn on this camera. I'll write down some ideas about something that I read about or see in the news that I think is absolutely ridiculous. Stupid how people don't know this. How could you not know these things? Okay, since you don't know, I'm going to tell you. I don't think that there are other people doing that, right? And there are other people who do it in a much more creative, algorithm friendly, kind of way. They, create content that supports their life, I guess, And I guess for me, my weakness has always been like marketing. I'm not good at it. That was Abdus. Abdus was great at that. I was not great at it, and I'm still not great at it. So I need people to help me with that. But I'm also not like rushing to find people to help, because that's just more work I'm gonna have to do. Managing a bunch of people who do a bunch of stuff, and I'm already managing people who do stuff. And you see, so there should be more of us doing this. Like there are certain things that I am fascinated by, that I like to talk about. And there are certain things that happen, and I'm really interested in that thing, and I dig into it, and as much as I can. But I'm not generally interested in talking about every single thing. And I can't. It is impossible for anybody to do that. Anybody. So, I think there needs to be more of us doing this. And I love when I see my African comrades, and I mean continental African comrades, my Venezuelan, Cuban, Chinese. I'm really excited about the Chinese, and they're reaching out to particularly Americans on social media. Of course, the Iranians, more people who understand imperialism and US militaristic and EU and NATO oppression from their perspective, from their particular and unique history. We need to hear that. I think that's the beauty of these Iran Lego videos. And I know we talked about them before. But the thing they do that I think is very, very impressive is they put history, actual history, real history, not just truth, actual history in these videos. So it is amazing to me that these folks in China, I mean, and I'm sorry, in Iran, I mean, have figured out that number one, like I said before, Americans are not well educated. I'll say it like that. I'm not going to say it the way I usually do. Americans are not well educated, and they know this. Americans don't even know our own history. They know this. So they know that America doesn't know their history. So they created this amazing propaganda campaign based on Lego cartoons. Cartoons. Why cartoons? Because a cartoon would be easily dismissed by so-called imperialist analysts, right? Because they're not serious. But also because the content or the framing is targeted toward a specific audience: Gen Z, millennials. Mhm. And they are also acknowledging that they have to present this information in a way that the people receiving it can understand it. That, like, they are doing all of that with these Lego videos, which is really interesting. Oh, thanks, Sela, because this is something that I wanted to point out really quickly. If we think that cartoons are innocent, and Sela Borican Libre says this is what United States Bugs Bunny cartoons were about. That's absolutely right. And if we look at many cartoons from the 40s, the 50s, the 30s, the 20s, look at how they depicted Africans and Asian people and Muslims, Arabs, Persians. Heck, look at how they depicted Jews. The United States and other countries, but the United States in particular, have used cartoons, comics, art directed at children, entertainment directed at children to indoctrinate toward imperialism, to indoctrinate people into supporting imperialism. So for me, these Lego videos from Iran are also turning that on its head. They are using these cartoon videos to show people what imperialism really is and why you should be against it. I think it's a brilliant, brilliant strategy. I think it is very, very effective. But that is also an example of why we need more diverse voices on the anti-imperialist left. It cannot just be white leftists who are the gatekeepers for what we do and don't say about a conflict, because I'm not going to follow a white leftist who is going to say, oh, the U.S. Carried out an unprovoked attack. on Iran. Now, we can disagree with the Iranian government and their authoritarianism. No, fuck you. No, we don't need to disagree with any of that shit. That's not our business because that's not why the US government attacked Iran. The US didn't attack Iran because of any authoritarianism. They didn't attack Iran to protect women. They didn't attack Iran to deliver freedom or democracy. They attacked Iran because they're fucking fascists. And they want to fucking steal that oil. And they do. I have been listening to these conservatives fantasize about turning Iran into a glass parking lot with a nuclear weapon for decades. This is the kind of shit these people were talking about with Rush Limbaugh. And these were people, these were white people in the church. Now, I will admit, a whole lot of black folks who were, around, in churches and got swept up in this right wing kind of movement, they would hear this stuff and a lot of black folks would be like, yeah, we don't have to go that far. That's not like, we don't have to bomb anybody. Damn, that way they ain't done nothing to us, but so it wasn't a lot of black Christians falling into that bullshit, but a lot of white folks who claim they were Christians. Oh, say we need to do it in the name of God. Come on. No. So this idea of attacking Iran, Iran is our enemy. Iran is, that's not new. That is not new. The U.S. has carried out an economic war against Iran for ever since the revolution, the '79 revolution. Iran has been and I think still is the most sanctioned country by the US in the world. And this whole thing of sanctions, like I don't think I know what they are, I know how they work, I know why they are imposed by the US and European countries. But I just don't get how one sovereign nation gets to tell other sovereign nations who they can trade with, or else this sovereign nation will punish those other sovereign nations and the nation they're trying to trade with. What kind of law is that? Is white supremacist settler colonial white people law. That's what that is. That's not all this shit about international law, international norms. They never existed. They never, what this always was a gentleman's agreement among imperialist countries and their vassal states. Their vassal states said, all right, we will do what you say as long as you give us access to your military protection and, favorable loan, loan, terms through the IMF. Yeah, okay, we'll do what you say. Yeah, you can put a military base here, because they don't want to be the targets of US imperialism. They don't want to be sanctioned. So they're fine propping up US sanctions against their literal neighbors, India. Excuse me, the UAE. Right? Do you understand? So I don't understand the logic of this, other than this is how the mafia works. This is how gangs work. Like this is the imperialist protection racket. If you don't want us to sanction you, shut the fuck up when we sanction them. If you don't want us to bomb you, invade your country, and kidnap you in the middle of the night, shut the fuck up when we do it to Venezuela. And this has been the so-called rule of law. This has been the truth of what the rule of law and international order has been all this time. There's no law, there's no order. There's a gentleman's agreement between the mafia and the mafia's potential victims. And the game is how much some of those victims are willing to kowtow, bend over and grab their ankles so that they will not continue to be a victim of this empire instead of getting together with the other victims and kicking this empire's ass. That's always been the order. That is international order. And it's crazy that people are still talking about this as if it's logical. Like people, US media and the political talking heads talk about sanctions as if they are reasonable, valid things that make sense. Like the US sanctioning Cuba is a logical thing that we can have a discussion about. What discussion needs to be had about something that has been established as an act of war? So the only reason we had not reached this point in global military conflagration is because of the restraint of these other countries that have been sanctioned by the United States. The restraint that they have shown, and the fact that the sanctions have weakened their economies, in some countries, have weakened their economy so much that their ability to protect themselves from military invasion has been affected. Now, that is absolutely true in Venezuela. I think that it might be true for Cuba. And I'm not saying that the US would have an easy time, because they wouldn't. Because you see what they had to do to get into Venezuela. They couldn't have gotten into Venezuela any other way than that. And they knew that. That's why they did it that way. They think they're going to do that in Cuba. They got another thing coming. And I don't think any US soldier, other than those motherfuckers on Guantanamo Bay, I don't think any US soldier is going to set foot on on the Malecon in Havana. I don't see it happening. But is it difficult for them to protect themselves because of the blockade? Yes, absolutely. If it's difficult for them to feed themselves and distribute medication and do the things for their people that they want to do, of course it's difficult for them to protect themselves militarily, but difficult don't mean impossible. And difficult don't mean easy for this country, as we have seen in Iran, because Iran is not in that situation at all, as we have learned. I think maybe we thought they were because we don't know as much about Iran, but as you can see, Iran was not weakened by these sanctions. Iran prepared for US aggression because of the unending sanctions and the unending aggression toward them. So, I am I'm a little confused about some of the conversations people are having about what's going on now, even as people see that everything that we have been told about this country, this government, especially in regard to foreign policy, everything you believed about Israel, okay, I hope you see now it's a lie. I hope you see now it is a lie. Everything that you have been told about Iran, everything you've been told about the Middle East, everything you've been told about China is a lie. What you've been told about Russia is a lie. Not to say that these countries do not have contradictions. Every country has contradictions, every single one. There's no perfect utopia anywhere, and there never will be. There never, ever will be. There are contradictions and issues in every country. And the people who are responsible for dealing with those contradictions and issues are the people who live in those countries. It is not any other country's business to go interfere in another country's business. Because, see, if another foreign country would feel like women wearing headscarves is enough of a reason for them to bomb them, claiming that they're going to free them while they're allowing their little brother, their little clone Israel, to replicate the ethnic cleansing leading into a genocide in Lebanon that they carried out in Gaza, why do you think such an entity would do right by anybody? If I don't so there is nothing legitimate about this country. There really isn't. And I don't know how everything that is happening now, the Supreme Court's decision on the Voting Rights Act, there was one congressional district, there is one majority black congressional district in Memphis, in Tennessee, and it is in Memphis. As soon as the Supreme Court made that decision, and then John Roberts fast tracked the decision, because usually Supreme Court decisions kind of they sit and marinate for like 40 days or something or other like that, to give states a chance to put things in place or whatever. This time, and this is very rare, this doesn't happen very often. This time, no, there was no 40-day waiting period. There was no wait. There was no nothing. John Roberts sent that thing and requested a memo that is rarely requested to immediately implement it. So immediately, what did Tennessee do? They broke up that one black district. And now all of those black voters in Memphis have been absorbed into larger white voting districts. Even if and here's the thing, these people said that they did that because they didn't want the Democrats to be able to gerrymander for a political advantage for one party, but they absorbed the black voters into white, largely Democratic districts. So the black Democratic voters couldn't have their own district, and they were just absorbed into the all white districts that were also Democratic. So if this was about eliminating political gerrymandering, then why not break up the white Democrats? See, all of it is bullshit. It's bullshit. And we see that it's bullshit. And we're still talking about it as if it's legitimate. Like, when is Trump gonna be impeached? Really? You still think somebody is gonna impeach that man? Honestly? You're still waiting for those assholes on Capitol Hill who haven't done shit, in the face of several genocides, several, backed by forces that they send weapons and money to. They meaning Congress. Why do you think they're going to do anything to Trump when they're basically agreeing with him right now? They're not telling him to stop the war on Iran. They are telling him to hold a vote so we can approve it. You can't keep doing this without approval. That's their argument, the approval, not the war. Because remember, it was Hillary Clinton who said that if she became president, she would bomb Iran. And Kamala Harris said that she would continue to ensure that Iran would never get a nuclear weapon. Even though Iran never had a nuclear weapon, everybody knew Iran never had a nuclear weapon. The United Nations knew, the IAEA knew, NATO knew, the United States sure as fuck knew. They lie. They have always lied. They still lie. That's why you need these other sources for your news and information, not just to check the bullshit that you get in US and Western corporate media, because The Guardian is trash too. But you also need these sources to learn about people in other countries in a way that you will never learn about them from any source outside of those countries and communities being reported on. And you pick up a little bit of their culture too. And then you begin to see some striking similarities between ourselves and people who are supposedly so different and so less human than we are, that they deserve to be bombed to the Stone Age. That's why I share this information. That's why I want people to have this information. So it's not just me doing this. You should be doing this too. Whatever topic it is that you want to give people the truth about, tell people the truth. Share this information, share these resources. Don't keep it to yourself. People need to know. We got a lot to undo in order to organize people to the point where we can carry out a revolution in this country. And the beginning of organizing is awareness, and you cannot have awareness without information. So that's why I did this show, because mentally I had a bandwidth to do nothing else. And ideologically, I really wanted to give people some of the information, some of the sources of information that I get, that provides the information that I share with you. So I hope it was helpful to you. Um, Thanks for joining. As I said, I'll put all of the links um, to the resources in the description in the chat for you. And hopefully, I will see you next week with a repaired tooth, feeling much better. Hope y'all have a good weekend. Thanks a lot. Peace. Talk to you soon.